Hey, Thomas here with another video for the Artisan Sound channel. Now, this video is going to be a bit more of a workshop style video, might be a little bit longer, but I'm going to try to show you some interesting aspects of working on the Children of Eden sound design here. And so sometimes in the course of a production, you can run into situations where you only realize after having worked on it for a little bit that a specific song, let's say, requires changes that you didn't foresee by just looking at the material, the score, and the script. And laying out the mic plot might require you to make some changes. And I wanted to show you that when you set everything up with cues and snippets in the X32 board, it's actually relatively easy to make changes that may at some times be quite dramatic. So let me just walk you through it, and I'm making the changes here at the beginning of this video so that you can come along for the ride and see what kind of considerations sometimes come into play and what we can do to fix things when they need to be changed. So specifically, I'm talking about this number here, Generations. That's a big song that's kind of at the beginning of what I would call Act 2, because that's where the storyline changes. And the junior version of Children of Eden doesn't have acts formally, but nonetheless, the storyline changes from the first act, quote unquote act, being the story of Adam and Eve and their children. And then the second act is the story of Noah and his family. And so this is the Generations song, is the song where it kind of shifts. This is essentially the opening of Act 2. So in this particular structure of the music, we have basically a 3 to 4 part set of storytellers, and then there are 3 soloists on top of that structure. And the storytellers, so in this case, we're having the entire ensemble basically sing, and the soloists are not the featured soloists that are cast for the main roles. So here we have, Father Noah, Miss Noah. This here is Shem, Ham. So these people are not necessarily part of the storytellers, but they are going to sing in the ensemble in this Generations number. And then on the other hand, we have soloists that are here on channels 10, 11, and 13, who I need to have better individual control over them. So the way I had initially set this up, as you can see here, the way that I have labeled my DCA groups is that I have Father Noah and Miss Noah always kind of by themselves, so I have individual control over them on the DCA groups. And then I had here set aside the DCA group 5 for the soloists, and then I have my standard 2-channel or 2 DCA group separation here between ensemble, two groups in the ensemble. I kind of labeled them female and male, although that doesn't necessarily make a big difference when it's a kids show. And so it's basically just to have some individual control over a larger crowd of people. So they're usually spread between these 2 DCA groups here, 4 and 6 and 7. So what I'm finding is, number one, I don't really have a use for individually controlling these 3 or 4 people that I have normally in these 3 groups, but I do have the need for more control over the 3 soloists. I want to have access to them separately so that I can blend them according to their day-to-day performance differences, or whatever the difference might be. So what I want to do is I want to split out the soloists over over several DCA groups, ideally 3 individual DCA groups. So I have control over them right here without having to mess up their general settings over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out which 3 channels. I'm probably just going to use the 3 main channels here for the 3 soloists. And then I'm going to have, you know what, maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these 3 main singers that are here in these DCA groups. I'm just going to put them into one channel, and then I'm going to have 3 DCA groups left over for the soloists. So let me just do that. I'm going to start here, okay? This is going to be solo 1, and I'm going to just abbreviate that and then actually put abbreviations for their names in here so that I can actually, or the operator mixer can actually know who they are. And so this is solo 1, S2 is this. And here I'm going to put S3. All right. There, that's how I'm going to do that. And oh, I should mention one thing that's really important. So you want to start out by having loaded this cue, which pulls up this snippet. So let's go into the snippets section, and you will see once you've loaded this snippet, it should be highlighted here, and it's not, but that's fine. So here we are. This X32 edit app is, at least on the Windows version, which this here is not the Windows version, this is the Mac version. The Windows version is usually quite finicky in terms of losing track of what parameters are checked. So I just wanted to double check this here. So this is the snippet that has been loaded, and that's how you want to start. So you want to be on the snippet that you're changing. I only need to change this snippet here. The other snippets stay in place, and they all have the source and scribble. So that means the labeling as well as the routing of the DCA groups saved with each of these snippets. So that means if I make a dramatic change to this snippet, it will only affect this snippet. And once I load the next snippet for the next scene, it'll all be in place as I had set it up for that snippet and that scene. Okay, so that's the start. And so then when I'm in here, I'm making all these changes here, right? So this here is going to be father. Let me just call this principles. And I'm going to make that a neutral color. There. Okay, so this is exactly what I want. Now I have labeled the DCA groups the way that I want them. Now I'm just going to put the people here into the groups as labeled. So actually 2 stays in, father stays into, Nor goes into, Miss Nor goes into. Now this one here is a storyteller. So actually all of these are going to be unmuted, which they weren't before. And yeah, so I basically these here, let me just go ahead and do the soloists first. So Mallory is going to be in DCA 3. Annabelle is going to be in DCA 4. That's this one. And Clara is going to be in DCA 5, and she's already here. Okay, 5 is good. So now I just need to, so I have the principles in 2. Actually, I'm going to put this also in the principles because she was also in that. Okay, so these are the principles, and now I'm going to, and I have my soloists set up on their channels, and now I'm just going to eyeball all the other people here into the remaining two groups there. And I'm basically looking for a relatively even distribution. 6, 7, 6, 7, let's just do it this way. 7, that's fine. Actually, I'm just gonna not even include that one. Okay, that's solo, solo, solo. That's not solo, so this can be in 6, that's fine. Solo. I'll put this one in 6 and these two in 7. So now I have a balanced layout, a balanced setup of these two groups here. And I have my soloists and I have my principals all in one fader. Now, remember, the principals are really part of the ensemble. They're not supposed to be featured in this case. They're just going to be blended in. But sometimes it's actually a little bit more tricky to blend principals in with the ensembles than not. So that's a good thing to have them in a separate control rather than just distributing them into these two channels. So that's why I'm still grouping them out, even though they're technically part of the ensemble. Okay, so now I have exactly what I want for this scene. Now I'm going to go back here to my snippet saving settings. And while I'm on, I need to make sure that generations is selected here, this snippet. And now I'm just going to click save. Make sure you check here that 28 generations is shown here as the snippet that you're overriding. And so there you go. That's it. Now, we move this out of the way. Maybe I can move it out of the way this way. So now I'm going to switch back and forth between the prior cue, and you see everything is back to the labels that we had there for that. Now the generation snippet loads the changes that we just implemented. You can see there the changes are implemented here, as well as over here. You see the DCA group assignments all follow this. You see here this strip here. Those are the DCA group assignments. They change between this cue, which calls up the snippet that we changed, and then the next one goes back to whatever it was set up for the end of the song, which basically sets up the dialogue scene that follows the song. So that's it, right? So it's pretty impressive, I think, that the concept of using snippets and cues allows you to make rather dramatic changes where you change absolutely everything about your entire layout and how all the channels are routed, how the DCA groups are named and labeled, and gives you exact control over what you need control over. So that's pretty awesome. And maybe I'll just put one additional thing into this video here. Let me go over to Qlab now. So in Qlab, I'm just going to show you kind of a new mode that I've decided to use in this particular show. And that's the reason is because of the specific resources that I had available for this show. So for this show, we had the performance tracks, which are just the instrumental tracks that play with the performer singing to them. So that's what's going to be used in the show. And then we also have guide tracks, which are using the exact tracks, but they have the vocal performance on top of the instrumental tracks. So they're the same, they're the exact same length and the exact same performance, but the guide tracks have vocals on top of them that sing all the parts that are being performed live in the show. And it helps actually a lot in structuring the automation cues that I'm putting into the session, just to make it a little bit easier and more smooth to run the show for the operator. And so what I've done is I've just set see, this here is my group that I'm using for this song, 24 Generations, while we're at it, right? And then, so here's my performance track, and just at the same time, I'm putting in here the guide track. And the way that I control them so that they don't play simultaneously is, you see, the performance track at the moment has a red X, so that means it's not going to play. And the other one, the guide track, doesn't have an X. And the way I accomplish that in this particular case is, you see when you look down here, the guide tracks all use audio output patch number 8, and that is set to XUSB, so it goes digitally directly from this Qlab app directly digitally into the X32 console. And so remember, this is audio output patch 8, and then for the performance track, I'm using audio output patch 3. And so now this makes it very easy and reliable to just simply switch between playing all performance tracks versus all guide tracks by enabling an output patch 8 for the guide tracks. And you see output patch 3 has no device. So that means the tracks that are the performance tracks that are set to audio output patch 3 have no valid device here. That's why they're actually not playing. That's why they have a red X. Okay, and so when I go to the stage with this file, I simply switch audio output patch 3 to XUSB and set audio output patch 8 to no device. And now you can see the red X has switched from the performance tracks to the guide tracks. So now the performance tracks are playing and the guide tracks are invalid. They're not playing in that case. So that's how you can simply and easily accommodate that. And so now, why am I using the guide tracks in the first place? Well, with the guide tracks, it's far easier to spot the timing of certain events. So as I'm setting up the mutes and the and some mixing aids for the operator, it's far easier to go along with the guide track and just, time it through, look at where the performances go, where the soloists are singing in this particular case, where the ensemble comes in and so forth. And I'm going to structure this and go through it right now. So I just wanted to show you this little trick. It's kind of neat if you have guide tracks available and they're lining up with the performance tracks. You can just load them in simultaneously, regulate which tracks are playing and which are not playing by simply using different output patches, audio output patches. And there you go. So that's convenient. And now you can, go along the track here, the guide track, make it easier for you to spot where you need to apply certain mixing aids if that's what you want to do. Maybe I'll continue this kind of workshop style video later as I'm going through this. But for now, I'm just going to end this video here and just having given you these two tips that are a little bit easier to reference if I keep them in a short video. So thanks a lot for watching. Leave any comments or questions on this video. Give us a like. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to be kept posted whenever we post new videos. And this is Thomas signing off from the Artisan Sound channel. Bye.